Hi, and welcome back to Retro Games Party TV, and thanks for joining me for yet another Retro Rambling. And this week, we're going to stick with the Amiga, and I'm going to be talking about good old Turrican 2. Now, Turrican 2 was first released on the Amiga and many other computers in 1991, developed by Factor 5 and distributed by Rainbow Arts. At its heart, it was just an old-fashioned platformer with a great array of weapons, including your traditional laser, a surround weapon, which you could press fire and you could move the laser in a full 360 degree arc, a multiple weapon which fired multiple laser beams at once, and a bounce weapon which was quite good. You fired it off a surface and it would rebound into smaller balls, and the balls would just keep rebounding and get all the enemies in the way. But not just those weapons, it had this great thing where you press your spacebar and this wall of fire would just emit from both sides. And if you press fire and down at the same time, you turn into a little ball, and you could go along the ground and leave landmines which would get your enemies. But best of all, and a great feature of this game, was if you kept your finger on the fire button and pressed spacebar, it emitted what Last Starfighter fans may call a death blossom effect. Your weapons would just go mad and take everything in range out. Boomf! Gone! Now, like I said, it came out on a number of systems: the Commodore 64, the Spectrum, the Amstrad CPC, and even a couple of the consoles, the Super Nintendo one, most favourably, which we'll be talking about in a bit. But of course, the main version, in my opinion, was on the Amiga, and there was also an ST version, and I'm going to show them both now. Those of a nervous disposition may want to leave the room, as this does contain footage from the Atari ST. Now, what gets me about these games, specifically the versions you've just seen on both the Amiga and the ST, is they were running on systems that were pretty comparable. You know, the specs were roughly the same, but the ST version was so much more inferior. More inferior graphics, inferior sound. It played just the same, but it just didn't look and feel right. I mean, even the game window was so small. I mean, that was an emulator running, but that was not part of the emulator. That was its native mode. It ran window with a massive black border around the screen, which is a shame. I always think the ST's been let down greatly by some of its games. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's a great system. I'm not a fan, but I know thousands of people are, and that's great. It all goes to make a world, people having different opinions. But I just think that the ST never really reached its full potential. I mean, yeah, it was used in the music industry to great effect, but so was the Amiga. That's a subject for another time, but I just never felt the ST was pushed to its full potential. I mean, there were some great games on the ST. Star Glider springs to mind, Xenon 2 Mega Blaster, with its fantastic soundtrack, but not Turrican 2. But let's go back to the Amiga version. Another great feature of Turrican 2 was the fact that it actually straddled more than one genre. Sure, it was just a platformer, some people may say. No, it wasn't. Once you got to level 3, you were greeted with a wonderful horizontal shooter style game in the style of things like R-Type and of course Defender. Have a look. And that's just the beginning of level 3.1. Wonderful, wonderful game. But again, I'm going to sing even more praises about something I talked about last week, the music. The music on Turrican 2 on the Amiga was absolutely stunning. It was phenomenal. It was arranged, composed and performed by a chap called Chris Hulsbreg. Many apologies if I get the name wrong. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. But however way you want to pronounce it, it doesn't take away the fact that the music is phenomenal. It is an absolutely brilliant soundtrack. The tunes just make the levels, and they all had different names. Level 1.1's music was Desert Rocks. Level 3.1 that you've just seen was something along the lines of the Concerto for Laser and something or other. I'll find the name and I'll run it across the bottom in a sec. There you go. And we're going to have a look now at Super Turrican 2 on the... I'm going to say on the Amiga, but it's not. We're going to look at Super Turrican 2 on the Super Nintendo. It doesn't have the same look as the Amiga version. It's a little bit more colourful, but the gameplay is in essence the same. Have a look.
Emergency. Power up.
Now, as the observant among you will have realised, Turrican 2 was the second in the series. And I liked Turrican 1, I really did. I had it for the Commodore 64. But once I played Turrican 2, I never looked back. Turrican 2 for me is a definitive game in the series. And of course you have Turrican 3, which was released in the early 90s. Yes, shortly after Turrican 2. But for me, it wasn't the same. I mean, I had a demo on a cover disc off Amiga Power or Format or one of the magazines, but I always stuck with the second, because Turrican 2 for me was where it was at. And if you're wondering, this was the first game I ever played on the Amiga. This is why I've always had such a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful relationship with this system. Beautiful system, great games. And that pretty much sums up my thoughts and opinions on Turrican 2. If you disagree, or you've got something to add, pop it in the comments down below and we'll have a good chat about it. Next week, we're going to look at a game on the Commodore 64. Fantastic game which took up most of my time in about 1991. What game's that? Well, we're going to do something a little bit more fun. Watch the video to its end, watch the outro when I talk about the Retro Games Party channel, listen to the music. That music will be in next week's game. In fact, it is the music from next week's game. And that's how it'll go from now on. To figure out what game we'll be doing next, just listen to that music in the outro. Thanks for watching, I hope you've enjoyed it. See you later. Bye. And don't forget, if you haven't already, press the subscribe button so you can get notifications and whatnot about our latest videos. And if you've already done that, you're not off the hook. Down there, that thumbs up thing, give it a press, give us a thumbs up, you know you want to. And also, leave a comment, start a discussion, tell us what you think, tell us if we've got anything wrong. Because it's not us that's wrong, it'll be you that's wrong, but, you know, it's a free country, you can say what you want. Bye.